What is it like to live and work in the famed Bob Marshall Wilderness? First, we'll hear some thoughts from Mark and Claire, the owners of 406 Wilderness Outfitters. Then we'll meet the guides and hear their stories. Keep in mind that these young men were still in high school at the beginning of the year. I'd say it was one hell of a senior trip, and I felt it was well worth capturing their experience. Like your grandpa, when did he start this? This was the original camp?
Yeah, he started coming in 1932, I believe it was, when he first, then I think it was couple groups or this a year. They're the first few that would contact him. It was prior to like permits for outfitters or anything, and to have him bring him in here. So then he started getting more of that and kind of decided to make it his kind of livelihood, or in the falls anyway. He would camp, but then his first maybe 10 years or so, I think he didn't really have base camp like this, or they would just set up a hunting camp for the trip and then move. And so sometimes if he had another one, he might camp a little somewhere different. But like, you come to it and it changes you, but you should be leaving it unchanged, like no mark of you, but it'll leave a mark on you for life. It's kind of a cool little thing that is there, if you let it, and watch people really get transformed into, like, especially in the hunting, like some of them come and they're just like it's all about the kill, and then sometimes by the end of the trip they're like, I don't really care if I shoot anything, this has been amazing.
Well, I think there are a couple things. I think the family legacy, and just knowing that this is a space that Mark's grandfather, who I really loved, and his wife Adele, who I never met unfortunately, spent so much time, and then Mick and Karen spent so much time here, and then Mark's childhood, we have pictures of him coming in and just being held by his mom, and knowing that there are all these family stories like around the table, and just the years that his family has really kind of just been in harmony with this beautiful wilderness is really special to me. And then having my kids experience that, I think too, we've had a couple guests this summer who have had kind of almost like life-changing experiences, which sounds a little bit hyperbolic, but I guess we had a 79-year-old man whose dream was always to see the Chinese Wall, and we were able to provide that for him, and the moment when he finally got to the top of the wall was like a really emotional moment, and it was really special. So and then other people who just like they feel like this experience has changed them, and I think that the wilderness and nature and experiencing the wild is something a lot of us no longer get to do every day, and I love that part of it. And I think for me, because I didn't grow up in this world at all, it's been really neat to just watch Mark and his family, do all the things that they do, and just how comfortable they are in nature. Yeah. And there's an element of worry because, I've witnessed some wrecks and some scary things that have happened, and but we've been lucky. I think it's just part of this world.
That's what I tell people. A lot of them come and they'll be only 6-pointer or a 350 bull or better. That's all I want. Like, hey, this is your hunt, but in my opinion, any bull that comes out of here is a trophy.
Yeah.
And so if you see a legal bull, you make the decision, but it's a trophy. There's not in the big scheme of things, of all the hunters, it's a pretty small percentage that have killed bulls in the big Bob Marshall Wilderness. So, you're in a pretty good club there if you're able to get in on one. So.
I'm Zane.
I'm Noah.
I'm Marty.
I'm Kane. We've kind of spent our whole lives together, really. From anything we've really done, we've stuck together through it. We've done football, wrestling, rodeo, hiking, hunting, fishing. We've done it all together. So I think it was a good experience spending all that time with your best friends. We all graduated together too, so we've done some pretty big things all together, I guess. Guided for 406 Wilderness Outfitters this summer and fall. I did fishing trips and hunting trips.
So I'm the fourth generation that has guided in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. It's an incredible experience. Yeah, when we first started, it was in May. We just started pretty much breaking colts, getting ready for season, trying to get colts where we could at least get them into the hills without having a heat wreck.
Packing in the whole camp is about, it was about around 30 loads, yeah.
Yeah, it took a lot of time prepping and getting ready to go into the mountains for the first trip to set up camp.
Well, the first trip into the Bob, pretty cool experience, but it was a little rough getting there, I guess. Anyways, I was about 3/4 of the way there. It was Kane and Noah were ahead of me quite a ways, and Mark was behind me. And there's this one little part where, I don't know, you come up the hill, trail's about this wide, and it's just pretty steep drop off the other side. And then there's this big log you have to wrap around and start going downhill. Anyways, I was going probably a little bit too fast. It was my first experience really of having a pack string. And I was going and I made the corner and I wasn't really paying attention. I was kind of in a hurry probably and just trying to get there because it was already getting close to dark, probably 2 hours away from dark, and started packing things up probably 5 or 6 that morning. We hit the trail probably around 8 or 9. Anyways, I was going along and the one horse on the back, her name was Wonder, and she ends up falling off the side of the trail, and she's all dangling off the side of the trail, and I tried to go back there untie, and pretty soon she's pulling the mules down with her. Anyways, I couldn't get them untied because the tension on the rope was so tight, so I ended up pulling out my knife. Before she pulled down all the mules and horses down the hill, I pulled out my knife, cut Wonder's rope. She went rolling down the hill. She was all tangled up in brush. It took me forever to get her even up. I packed those packs on my back all the way up to the trail, and then after that, I was just tied her up at the bottom. Kind of, there's this little flat spot where I could tie her up to this little shrub. And anyways, Mark got there about 45 minutes later after this happened, and me and Mark loaded the packs up. And anyways, got everything ready to roll, and I ended up hitting the trail. But yeah, that's kind of how that went, I guess.
Probably takes a good 7-8 hours, I think.
Yeah, it just depends
Just
on
on-
really how
just on
mules ride, and
average.
if you're with guests or not, if you're by yourself.
But that was mostly all my day consisted of. That first day was packs rolling and getting off in some pretty bad spots and trying to fix packs on some steep old slopes, and it rained pretty dang hard on us in there, and we were soaking wet, and sometimes you were pretty cold. Your hands would be numb trying to fix packs back up, and yeah, it was just a long day for me. A lot of it's just that you go over 2 passes to get into the camp where we're at, and a lot of it is either kind of down in the creek bottoms or up pretty steep mountainsides. Yeah.
It's a wilderness for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just really depends on how many guests and animals we have to pack in. It just, normally our day starts around 4:35 when we're packing in, and get up, saddle mules, saddle horses. Usually our riding horses that we're gonna do, we usually wait to saddle the guests until the guests get there so we can see their size and build and preparing what the horse is gonna fit them the best. And then after that, we have one guy usually take the guests. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty early mornings, pretty late nights.
The Holbrook's camp, full service camps usually consisted of, we'd take them for a day ride to Big Prairie, Big Salmon Lake. We'd take them out on rafts. We'd guide them to good fly fishing spots because fly fishing in there is pretty amazing. But the rover trips, we'd start out at Holbrook, which is 28 miles in. It's right next to the White River. We'd stay there for a few days. After a few days, we head up to the wall, the Chinese wall there. It's called Gladiator. We'd camp out there for a night or two, and we'd go up along the top of the wall and then drop down, and just we'd camp along the bottom of the wall. But yeah, those were pretty fun just because you've seen so much country, but also a lot of work for us guys, I guess. But I really think all the guests enjoyed it, and I enjoyed seeing all the new country too. And then for the drop camps, we'd go into Gordon Creek, which is also about 28 miles in, right next to Big Prairie. Anyways, we'd pretty much, they'd meet us at the trailhead. The night before, they'd drop their stuff off. We'd try and get as much man-eat as we could the night before. Next morning, we'd saddle, load, and then match the guests with their horses and then head in. As soon as we got to Gordon Creek, we'd drop them off and just drop their stuff, help them unload their stuff, and then load our manis back up on our mules, and we'd either go stay at Gordon Camp or we'd try and make it back to Elk Creek and spend the overnight, and then head out the next morning as early as possible, which usually drop camps were probably the longest days, I'd say.
Packing in 28 miles every single time, you end up putting on more miles than you think about. We had, I think, 20 plus drops and about 5 full service in the 2019 season, so it was a busy one for sure. Not much time to hang out. There's a lot of just go, go, go. I bet we put on about 3,000 miles between just riding between Big Prairie and Holbrook Camp, and then from the Alpaca Camp there at Holland Lake all the way into Holbrook Camp. I mean, it's long days, long hours, for sure.
And then adding on those miles, going and getting horses every morning. At least sometimes even twice a day, getting going and finding horses out on the flats where we'd kick them out, where they'd eat. And we'd go out and we'd have to find them. Sometimes you wouldn't find them, especially in the later season when the food started getting pretty scarce, and they'd kind of just scatter everywhere. So there'd be days where you'd ride, I don't know, 5-6 miles just looking for them, and then you'd have to ride back to camp. And sometimes if you were by yourself, you'd have to ride out, make a loop, and then ride back all the way back to camp and grab someone else to come help you out.
Yeah, just to put it in perspective of how much we really rode, like the miles pretty much add up to where if we were to start in Los Angeles, California, and ride all the way to New York City, I mean, it's kind of amazing when you put it in that way. But yeah, I mean, we had lots of good times. We had his birthday in there, and we had his birthday in there also. So I mean, it's 2 birthdays, fun times, and we definitely did our fair share of messing around. And a couple times we'd get sent out just to go catch fish for dinner, which was awesome. We'd be able to go out for the evening and be able to relax a little bit, jump in, swim around, be kids, I guess. Yeah. Mess around a little bit. One of the nights, actually, our horses all of our horses got out midnight, and me and Kane realized that they were all gone, and we had to go up. We had no wrangling horses or nothing, and luckily they had gone to the airstrip, the airstrip was a old landing strip when you used to be able to fly bush planes into the Bob Marshall Wilderness. Or just where we put our horses up. It's right next to camp, and that's where they like to go a lot for feed. Me and Kane went up there on foot and looking for them.
It was pretty late at night too. By the time we realized
it was pretty late, and we were up there just walking around and trying to find them, but their horses all wild up. They didn't want anything to do with us, and we just ended up pretty much laying out there in the grass and just looking at the stars and taking it all in. And that was definitely a fun night.
And just sit on kind of the edge of it and just kind of look around. We got some pretty cool pictures of just being up there. There's nice little spots you can sit on, and you really could see as far as the eye can see.
It makes you feel small up there for sure.
Oh yeah, you don't realize how big it is till you stand on top of the Chinese wall. When Mark would let us, after we've been working pretty hard, and he'd let us go out and fish and have free time. And that was pretty fun. Yeah. All 3 of us would go out there and we'd find us a good little spot and just sit on the shore and fly fish. And you'd just sit back and relax and enjoy the scenery. And You know, that was pretty. I like that part a lot about the summer. Just that.
The anticipation of being opening day, you know, and just seeing what we were gonna get into, and the first day I had bulls bugling and taking some great bulls out of there, and getting the hunters on a lot of elk, and I would say the first trip was definitely a success for sure.
It's not like it's a coveted tag by any means. It's over the counter rifle tag. It's early season rifle up there, and people might say that might make it easier because it is a rifle bugle hunt, but I don't think it's easy at all. There's definitely elk there and there's good numbers, but just for how big the area is, I mean, you're gonna have to work your butt off to find one. I mean, it's not like you're going to a big fancy ranch and just gonna go pick the biggest one you want, and you're gonna have to work for it. It's definitely it's a new experience for a lot of new people. It's something I don't think anybody will forget once they do it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my first guided bull, it was a experience of a lifetime, honestly. Seeing the excitement and the I don't know, the happiness on that person's face when they get it, it's pretty cool. But leading up to that, it's a lot of work, and I think the first couple days there we were getting a little discouraged. 3 or 4 days into it, we had a few bugles here and there, but didn't see much, didn't have anything much come in. Pretty soon going along and hear an elk bugle, so I'm like, all right, cool. Anyways, I bugle back and I get an answer right back. Bugle with him. Anyways, he's coming in hot. I can tell he's coming in, and I end up seeing him, so I get the hunter all set up and ended up bugling him in about 25 yards away, and the hunter put a good shot on him and killed him right there. So it was a good experience, especially before that. I've never killed an elk for myself, but seeing someone else do it is pretty cool. And
getting there, they don't really think much of you being an 18-year-old kid going and guiding them around. They don't think you know what you're doing. They get a little frustrated. You can tell the hunter's getting frustrated with you and going out, and then finally, Zane goes and gets a bull, and I mean, it really, knocked up the hunter's confidence of, these kids might be able to guide us bulls. And I go out and we're packing that bull out that Zane guided, and we hear bulls start bugling in there, and heck, we even spooked one when we were riding in there. And that's when we belled off the horses, and I took the youngest hunter out of the bunch with me, and we tried to go up and thinking that we might be able to catch back up with that bull that we might have spooked out of there. And we got up high, and I just let a bugle off, and I heard a bugle, just quiet, real quiet, and we kind of, you could tell he was pretty close, and we kind of kept working our way through there, and through this little burn, and I bugled again, and he was answering back, and finally he started showing himself here and there, and he's playing hard to get there with us, and finally he ends up coming out, and we had to move and do a few things here and there, and it was a lot of work trying to get in this position you think that bull was going to come into with the wind and everything. And pretty soon he pops over the top of this knob about 20 yards away, and biggest bull I've ever seen. I got out of the way, and that hunter had a pretty good shot and ended up shooting him pretty close, about 20, 30 yards away from us. And we watched that bull go down, and yeah, I was about as excited as that hunter was. I mean, it was pretty awesome, because it feels like it was your kill too. I mean, it was your experience too. I mean, you guided that bull, which was pretty awesome to me, and yeah, it's something I'll never forget.
Be ready to work. Be ready to hike.
Listen to your guide.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, even though we're young, I mean, we've all hunted in Montana growing up our whole lives. I mean, we kind of got an idea of what we're doing and what we're looking for.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, in general, if you're willing to hike, you're gonna get a lot. You're gonna be a lot more successful. That's just how it is. I mean, the bulls aren't gonna be right off the trail.
Practice shooting, definitely be ready to shoot. I mean, and you got to be certain with your shot. You can't just be shooting and hitting them bad, because I mean they go somewhere in that thick stuff and they get hard to find sometimes, and it's no fun, especially for the guys that have to be out there looking for something that you wounded because you didn't take the time to go practice your shooting, and that's another big part.
I mean, I just know Marty had a guy miss a bull at 60 yards, and
Yeah.
I put a hunter on 2 different bulls within 30 minutes that he had clean shots, one at 60 yards, other one at about 250.
I mean, I remember after we guided that bull for the brother that I don't think he had shot a bull in the bob yet.
Yeah.
He ended up shooting that one, and the other guy said, "Oh, you know, I'd just be okay with a wolf. You know, I shot a bull the past year, and you know, I didn't really. I mean, wolves growing up hunting, they're a pretty hard animal to hunt. You know, I never really seen one in the wild even. We happened to go out hunting the last evening because they wanted to get out of there pretty early because it was that last hunt, and you know, we didn't know what the weather was going to be like coming out, and so we took them out on that last evening hunt, and we were sitting there in a spot not too far away from camp, so if we did shoot an elk, it wouldn't be that bad to pack them out. So we're sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear a wolf. I knew it was a wolf, and went back down to the hunters, and I was like, "You guys hear those wolves howl?" And I've never howled before. I didn't want to look dumb, and they wanted me to do it, so I was like, "Well, I'll just try it." And it's pretty much just cupped my hands and started howling. I just let out a howl, and it didn't sound very good to me, and I was like, "Oh, I probably just scared him away." And then it sounded like not too far across the river, it started howling a little bit, and so I just, you know, I howled back a couple times, and all of a sudden it was about half an hour, 45 minutes later, the hunter caught something out of the corner of his eye, and he's like, "Oh, I think I just seen something move down there." So I grabbed my binos, and he kind of showed me where he seen something move, and I threw them open. I kind of looked around for a little bit through my binos, and I just seen this wolf sitting there staring at us, and it was just facing towards us, and it was about 250 yards out there, and the guy's, you know, he's trying to find it in the scope, and I mean, it blended in pretty good. You can really see with your naked eye, and I thought for sure it was gonna run off, so I just reached over and I looked down the barrel of my hunter's gun and lined it up to where, kind of in that area where I seen that wolf, and he looked through the scope and ended up seeing that wolf through the scope, and he shot it, and it hit it good, and we rode back to camp and made her back.
Yeah, when we left the pickup on the last hunt, me and Zane went in, I don't know, 2 days earlier or something like that, and it was -1 when we left the trailhead.
Yeah.
And yeah,
It was a long day,
Yeah,
just because it was so cold, and no one had rode on that trail for about a week or so.
yeah, it was all.
So the snow was, I don't know, it was almost up to me and Marty's horse's shoulders, I would say. They were trucking through there. They were definitely trying, you know. We stopped several times up on top of the pass just to give them a breather and stuff. So anyways, going out this year, it was a little bit of a challenge, not only because so many loads, you know. We had a pretty good snowstorm come in, so we were wondering, you know, if it was gonna snow too much for us to even get over the Holbrook Pass, but it was a challenge just in the snow, even just because there's four or five tents. That comes with all the cooking stuff, all the beds, cots, stoves, and on top of that, after you're even packing everything up, man, you gotta take down your tent frames, and everything has to be taken down before you can leave. It's just a lot of work, I guess. So
Made it for a long ride, riding that far, being that cold, and then with all the snow and stuff, you know, the brush kind of caves in over the trail, so then you got snow, you know, brushing on you, and then
cold and wet all day.
Yeah, cold and wet all day.
Yeah.
It definitely makes for long days, and it's not it's not for the lighthearted, I guess.
Mark, usually, since working hard the whole year, he'll give the guys a couple extra days in there to hunt, you know. It was the last day we could hunt. I headed out to go wrangle horses because, I don't know, it was probably three or four in the evening there, and it was getting dark about 5:30, I'd say. I found the horses, and anyways, I kind of get them going back towards camp. I was with Mark's son. Me and Luke kind of sent him back towards camp. I was like, hey, Luke, you want to go see if we could find a buck or a bull or something, you know, go glass around a little bit, see if we can spot something before dark. Get off my horse and start glassing, and I spot this bull. We ride to where we're going to tie up and get off and locate him again. He's kind of up on this knob in the open. Didn't want to go straight up at him. I angle up the hill kind of, and I figured by the way he was kind of going, we'd catch him in this one little spot, and I get lined up, I shoot, and he ain't going down, and he just stands there though, and he's looking around and get him stopped again. Anyway, second shot, I put him down right there. He rolled, as soon as I shot, he hit the dirt pretty hard. Started hunting when I was 12, and I was 19 years old, and you know, I've had opportunities at elk, and I hadn't capitalized yet, I guess, and killed my first bull in the Bob Marshall, just knowing that not a lot of people get to do it, and you know, it was just a great experience for how much work I put in before and how long I've waited to get my first bull, and paying off the Bob Marshall is about as good as it gets, I think. So
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't pick a better group of guys to grow up with, really.